So this time of year, I have it way easier than you guys because what's done is done, and
Yeah.
they're just in the shed cooling down and waiting for spring. And there's nothing I can do, even if there's even if there's a problem. There's nothing I can do, right? So I just use my winter to build equipment and make plans for spring and all that. So
But
yeah,
over this last year that we've been in cahoots, the four of us, right? Uh, the I've not only done that. We've made changes based on information from different geographical areas, right? So I'm doing things now that typically would not be done here, and it could be an epic failure. But I know what I'm trying. I know what I'm trying to fix, and what I'm trying to fix is that late, well, the spring starve out, right? Is they die out just before they start to be able to explode, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
the only way I could do that is by counting backwards, right? And I never counted backwards before. And when I say counting backwards, it's basically knowing, hey, when's the start of the season? Now let's count backwards to when they should start ramping up their brood production. Okay, so if they're going to start in January for a February buildup, well, then when do I need to start putting feed and pollen patty on to get them to that point? So I've already started, right? Which is something I normally don't do. I would just wait till it starts warming up and the bees are flying like crazy, and then I would start trying to feed them. And what I'm finding is that's too late, because by that time, the ones that are going to die are going to die. And the ones that are going to make it, well, they would have made it whether I fed them or not, probably. Right. Um, so that goes back to what we were talking about with Lloyd Harris's philosophy of if they're flying, they're dying. Right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, essentially, yeah.
So what we run into is a deficit of the amount of bees that are able to fly compared to the number of bees that the queen can produce.
Got to get
So
that
the
replacement all the time.
Yep.
So if we don't feed, there's bees constantly flying, but because it's cooler at night, she's not brooding as much. So the numbers of bees are starting to dwindle, right? So
See, it seems like your winter is a lot like, for me, it would be 3 months of October, right?
right,
For me, it a really cold night, it would freeze, but trying to speak in Fahrenheit terms, a good October day is, say, 50 to 60 F perhaps. A normal day would be maybe 45 F for October here. And and see, this is where my understanding of your situation has to start really, transposing that into what you're doing and what you're experiencing, because that kind of weather, October here is one of the craziest months, because that those temperatures, right around those temperatures between 30 and 50 F, is where the bees will be active or they'll stop flying, right? So we only have about a month of that, maybe 6 weeks. Well, you have months of that, and that's, I would think, like, we, Ian and I sit on chat, and we just, in October, it's just like, oh my God, the bees, it's got to cool down. We got to get colder weather. Like, we're just really stressing out about the fact that it hasn't cooled down yet. We need the cold weather. We need the cold weather. So I can kind of relate that to your situation, Bob, in particular, that's what you're living for a number of months, and that would be terrible. Way harder than what I do, because I don't do anything with the bees for
well,
4 or 5
which
months.
which leads up to uh, the fact that you reduce them down to single brood boxes, right? Charlie's single brood chamber management there. So you bring it down to the single brood box, but you absolutely plug that out with feed. Be-
Totally, 100%.
because your bees slow down in their flying that time of year, and they're storing and storing and storing. Where I
Yep.
went through, if I did it like an average, I averaged about 5 gallons of 2-to-1 per colony that I put on each one. And I went down to the Mississippi Beekeepers Association conference and came back, and they'd already burnt through it all. So now I'm feeding them again,
Wow.
right? So,
Yeah.
and that's something
So
I
we've got
didn't
a
do in the.
few things working together that way. It's in that temperature, right? When that temperature comes down and they stop flying, then they don't stop aging, but it's dramatically slower that they age. They just almost stop aging. So that means they don't need that continuous replacement like you have. That means they don't need that continuous brood that you have. And that's kind of a circle effect, because if they don't need to brood that way and they don't brood that way, then they don't eat hardly anything. It's
Mhm.
remarkable how little a colony will eat if they're not brooding. It's absolutely remarkable. I think Lloyd's data himself, if I recall correctly, he says 65 pounds of feed for our 5-month winter, right? And that's just remarkable how much they don't eat when they're not. And of course, if Lloyd's watching, he'll get after me and say, "Well, they are brooding all winter." Yes, they are, very very little. And when we plug them out, if you are successful to plug them out in October, then they are broodless for a little while because they have nowhere to lay, so they can't raise brood. Um, so
Until they eat
that's
enough
it's
resources
kind
to
of
give her more room.
those things all work together, right? The zero brood means very little feed consumption, and the colder weather means very slow aging of the bees. So those things all work together to then carry those bees all the way through the winter.
And yeah, that's kind of what I've noticed and why I've changed some of the ways. And people down here that I've talked to think I'm crazy, right? Why are you open feeding? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that right now? Why are you putting out pollen? Because there's babies in there. And
Yeah,
I opened up. When was that video, Brad, that I sent you a week ago, maybe a week and a
oh
half ago?
yeah, yeah, a
And
week, a little more than a week, I think.
and there was slabs of brood in there and not that much pollen, right? Because there's none out there. So the options are then, do the bees consume, do they rip them open because they don't have the feed, or what is the situation? Do they die, or do I feed them and make those bees now? They're going to be my spring bees that are going to be the ones in 45 days from now. It'd be when uh middle of February, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
These are the bees that are hatching right now that are going to be the bees that are taken care of,
that are making your summer bees.
that are making my summer bees. So
Yeah,
where in the past I would be, we'll see when it gets next month when it gets warm, and then we'll throw feed on them. So I'm like, I'm not
right. Whereas,
feeding.
I'm banking on my cluster to kind of be more or less in stasis, but I mean they do die all winter, and the drop on my floor is a testament to that. But that cluster just kind of goes in stasis and shrinks until end of April. There's a well-known phenomenon in my area: April dwindle. Your bees will come out of winter in March. You'll look in there and think, these look awesome. And by the end of April, they're dead.
So
There's another saying that anybody can get bees to March. That's easy. Getting the bees to March is easy. Um, most of them die in April because they just keep dwindling and dwindling. And if they don't get that turnaround, meaning they start to produce more brood than the attrition, then they won't turn around and they just bottom out.
Philip says, Bob, it could be a chicken and egg thing. Perhaps they have food, therefore they are making brood. Um, could be, but I know one thing: they don't have food, they can't make brood because they don't have any bodies in there, any bodies left in there alive to raise anything. But either way, that's what I want. I want them to build up, right? And hopefully, I can get a Ian Stepler box of bees in the spring, you know, between the apis and the good food and everything. How is it there's 3 chats, but everyone is on the same chat? Body blue, arms raised.
Magic.
I've shared it to my channel, so
Yeah, so
maybe they're looking
I
at that
think
one.
Charlie's got it on his channel. Brad's got it on his
I figured it out.
Todd's got it on his channel, and we're on Facebook at the same time. So we're actually in on my channel. So we got five streams going at one time.
What's an OG chat room?
Original Gangsta chat room. This is where everybody hangs out on the YouTube, right? So
I've got about 20 on my my channel right now.
so we really do this,
Which
guys.
you know, the comments, just to make a point about that too. I'm not watching the comments on my channel or
No, they're
I'm watching
all
the
in
comments
here
that are on the live stream, or do they all show up in here?
there.
So if
I'm
somebody
I'm
comments
seeing
on my
all the
channel-
links from Charlie's and
Simultaneous.
yeah, so all of them are coming into the chat right now. So if you have questions, definitely feel free to pop them in the comments and we can get them up there. Appreciate everyone. We do this thing at least, well, Charlie does it Friday night. I do it Tuesday night. We definitely do it at, several Monday nights.
Some
And
Thursdays and Saturdays and Sundays.
It's every night.
It's pretty much every night, except for Wednesday.
It's
The stream
unusual
team's
when
on
it's not.
Wednesday, but every other night we're pretty much doing a live somewhere.
And then Tim and Hannah are doing Sunday nights.
And the only way you can find these wonderful live chats is if you subscribe to these channels because that's where they happen. So
That's right.
You know,
okay.
Thinking about what I said, I have another wrinkle that I forgot to mention, and that's I can't do an OA vaporization unless I go out there at midnight. It's too warm. They're flying all day.
I would say wait for the rain, but you might be waiting months out there.
Jeez, I know. There's supposed to be El Nino, and I remember when I was younger, when they claimed a year as El Nino, nothing happened. Last year, there was no talk. The word El Nino was not mentioned once, and it poured. But now, you mention it, you jinx it, and what do they say about that, Brad?
Bob's your uncle.
Bob's your uncle.
Here, it certainly is unusual. If it hadn't snowed a bit yesterday, we would have had a brown Christmas.
Oh,
we got maybe half an inch, 3/4 of an inch of snow yesterday.
I got snow today. It was just in liquid form.
Oh, in liquid snow.
We got liquid snow. Hey, here's a question. I don't know if any of you have experience with this. I do not because I haven't run these bees. It says, hey, boys, any advantage of using Russian bees? Good for overwintering because of population size. I haven't run Russians. I think Brad's running primarily Carnies, right?
Yeah, generally Carniolans do best around here.
Yeah. I have lots of experience with Carnies. I get from Jose. And boy, they are very, very light on the food usage during the winter. It's amazing. You think you go in there in spring and you think, oh gosh, they're dead. No, they're not. They just haven't started up yet.
I think Shane has a good point there. That and the fact that they're flying again. That mortality curve, you can't see my hand, but mortality curve on Lloyd's data is very shallow all winter when the bees are not flying. As soon as the weather is such that they'll fly, that mortality curve it's dramatic. It just takes an absolute plummet, and they start dying really fast. So I think it's probably both.
I did have a hive of Russians, and at that time I only had Italians, and huge difference in characteristics. Soon as if there's no flow, they shut down. You swear that hive is queenless. They're very thrifty. Um, they seem to swarm. A lot of people told me about they swarm quite frequently, and uh, they go into winter with a smaller cluster, but they do build up pretty fast and all that. And I just, it's like I think what Bob learned is like get one style of bee and understand the characteristics of that bee, and not have multiple queens.
Yeah,
Type,
let's talk about that. Oh, I'm
multiple
glad
types
you
of
brought
queens,
that up.
and what did I do
Something
with that
we learned
question?
this year too.
It's that's an ass whooping I took handily. So I'm just I'll put it out there
Well,
like that, and I apologize for my language, but we take them from time to time, and that was
well, anyway, I seen there was a difference in characteristics, and it's like I got rid of the hive. I didn't like doing that. I understood um, um, the Italian, huge buildup of bees all the time. I mean, there was always complaints about them eating a lot, but I was pretty new at it at the time. So I stuck with the Italians because I knew their characteristics. And that's, it just made keeping bees easier, trying to figure out what is doing what. Now with these other newer queens like the Carniolans and I've already had Carniolans and stuff like that, and Italians, and Carnies are close to Italians, but they're not as they seem to be a little more calmer and whatever. And so,
well,
of course, I got more experience now to kind of see what's going on too. So
we've so with that being said, guys, so in my first 5 years, I've gone through several different types. Well, several, at least 3, right? So I've had Italians, I've had just mutts, right? I've had Carnies, I've had Saskatraz, right? Because 4 or 5 years ago, Saskatraz was like, oh, everybody's gonna get Saskatraz, they're mite resistant, blah blah blah, right? So my issue was I had so many different varieties, and I was terrible at taking notes, right? So I didn't write, oh, this is a Carney hive, or this is this, or this is that, right? So the thing is that my Carney, I could open up a box and it was an Italian hive, and it would just be slam packed. And then I would go to the hive next to it, and it'd be a Carney hive, and it'd be a little tiny cluster. And then I'd go to, a Saskatraz hive, and it may be alive or it may be dead, but they all had different different habits, right? And that's great for them. It's terrible for me because now I don't know if that hive's doing what it's supposed to be doing or if it's failing compared to what my other colonies are doing.
Yeah, that's right.
So it really puts that Jedi mind trick on you, right? So it's like this year it was, look, first of all, mark your queens, because how old are your queens? Is the queen failing because she's too old, or well, I don't know. That was a nuke I got last year.
Replace her?
What's that?
Sure they didn't? And are you sure they didn't replace her?
You don't know, right?
You mark all of your queens and you open that hive and there's a queen that has no mark. You got to question that and say, why does she have no mark? Did I miss this one, or did they replace her, or did they swarm?
Right. So it's more about, for me now, knowing what I've got in each box and how old the queen is, and really doing better on that. So what did I do this year? I grafted and replaced every one of my queens. I think there's one yellow out there, but she'll get replaced this year. But other than that,
starting to work on the theory that I am forced to work on. I know somebody was giving me crap about this on my channel one day, and that's fine. People have different perspectives, but how do you run 150 colonies by yourself? Well, you run 1 or 2 150 times, right? And that means exactly that, Bob. I want to do everything exactly the same to all these colonies, so then I'll see the ebbs and flows, and I'll be able to tell who's doing what, because they all have the same equipment, they all have the same advantage, they all have the same flow, they all have the same, maybe strain of bees, but maybe not, right? So that's kind of, I think, what you're moving toward, getting some consistency and in
Well,
taking that variable out.
and you have to get on that, because when you start doing your grafting and stuff, how do I know that the one I grafted with was a superior colony, or if it just happened to be the best colony I had because my other ones were doing crazy stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Or
so
you're
once
always
you
grafting from the Italian because, well, that one has the biggest cluster, and obviously they're the most healthy hive. So you're always grafting
No,
from the
he's up there.
Italian, and you're not getting the Carniolan
One's like,
strain, because you think somehow it's not doing as well, right? You've got all that. The UFO in Charlie's Field there.
do it, the UFO in Charlie's
The
Field.
UFO in Charlie's. I think he got it. Good shoot.
What?
Yeah, there it is.
Oh,
Little
back.
blink back there. That's just a shine off of his head.
Oh yeah, we've seen that before.
that's a pixel.
Is that what we're calling it now?
Jeez.
Sorry to derail things. But I
So
remember that, Bob, and that was a real turnaround for you, as I recall, taking that dog's breakfast of what to expect and turning that into a more unified of what to expect. So now you've got multiple colonies, and you can look at them all relative to each other
right,
and say, okay, what's going on here?
and that makes a huge difference. Now, I'm not saying that you can't do it in the same yard, because I'm sure people are much more skilled than I am. But when you get 70 out here, for me, working a full-time job in 70 colonies, and you're trying to quickly assess and move, I don't have to consider what breed or variety of bee I'm running, right? Is this colony crap? And then if it is crap, something I stopped doing this year is I stopped feeding resources to them. When I say that, I'm not saying feeding them. I'm talking about taking brood from another colony and putting it in there to assist the colony that's struggling. So hanging out with people like Brad and Ian and James, their philosophy is totally different. It's failing. Shake it out. Put a new nuke in there with new queen and start it over again and give it a chance to succeed, as comparing to just continuously robbing from a good hive, making it weak to give it to a weak hive that's never going to get better than mediocre.
Now you have two hives that suck.
Yeah, now you got two hives that suck instead of
Yeah.
one, right? So
That's right.
so I mean, that was a very it's
And there's a time for that. There's a time for boosting with brood. There's a time for boosting with bees, and combining and all that kind of stuff. But that takes experience, because you need to dig into that hive and you need to look at it and say, now, why do they suck so bad? Is the queen failing? Do they have, maybe they got EFB or some chalk brood or something? What's going on here? Are they failing because there's something wrong with them, or are they just behind? Like, because it's all a matter of momentum. If they start behind, they'll finish behind. So sometimes if you can really determine that, then you can go ahead and say, I'm going to give you a boost because I think that's a good investment with this brood, and that will help you to catch up, and then you'll be fine. You have to make that assessment.
I think one of the things is that clicked the switch, the light bulb that came on for me this year was, these aren't pets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not pets, right? So the same thing with, if I just give this queen more resources, she's going to just start doing more and she'll be fine. And it's not the case. It's most of the time it's not.
If it was a crappy queen, there's nothing you're going to do to change that but pinch the queen and get something else. And that's why I preach what I call aggregate resource. You look at the apiary and you look across that apiary, and there might be 2 hives there. It could be 20 or 200. That to me is what I call an aggregate resource. You have equipment, you have drawn comb, you have maybe some honey, you have pollen, you have brood, you have bees, you have queens. That's a whole aggregate resource. So you can make the best you can make out of all of that. So if you need to move resources around or use resources, if a colony is not making it and you have to shake them out, you've still got resources because you have pollen in there for another hive or for your cell builder. You've got drawn comb, and everybody needs that. You've got equipment. Everybody's saying, "Oh, I didn't have equipment to take advantage of this opportunity." So that's why I preach what I call that aggregate resource. So I think the idea of that helps a person to stop obsessing over one colony, right?
Right.
This colony is getting behind. Fix that. Like use that resource somewhere that's it's going to be appreciated, right? And I kind of look at that with the bees. You know, who deserves it? Who deserves these resources? Who deserves to be fed? Who deserves a bigger box? Who deserves more stuff? And if you're not cutting it, it's definitely a meritocracy in my apiary. If you're not cutting it, you end up in a zombie hive in the corner. So
Well, and one thing that really changed that was learning grafting, right? Once I learned that I could make queens whenever I wanted to, that all of a sudden those freeloading queens that are sitting back there not doing anything,
yeah,
they went to a whole different rung on the unemployment scale,
their
right?
days
It's
are
like,
numbered.
yeah, it's like,
That's right.
you got to go. We're just going to
Yeah.
put this new one in here and we're going to see,
Yeah. And
Our
that's one of
Mark
the most
Miller has a
valuable
question
things
here.
a person can do is raise your own queens, because that changes your mindset on what that resource is worth.
All right. So Mark Miller says, I have a question from a beekeeper that sells queens. What does most beekeepers want in a queen? A live queen.
She's got to be alive.
She's got to
That's
be
number one.
alive. That's
Number one.
the first prerequisite. And after that, I'm pretty flexible. If she lays, I mean, I really want a prolific layer here.
You've got to have a good laying rate for sure.
And
Disease free and can't be, full of chalkroot spores and stuff like
Not
that.
so much the queen, but it's actually how the hive responds. Is it a hive that's going to blow bees up into your face when you open it up, or does it just sit there and calm as a?
don't you talk about my bees like that, Charlie? Don't you do that?
It's definitely something I don't want. Is mean bees.
Or they like Bob's
bees
bees that sting the living daylights out of you all the time.
But look, man, I have no arthritis anymore.
He's loose as a goose.
I've got a guy up here that in north of me about 2.5 hours, and he's been working. It takes years to develop a characteristic in queens and stuff. And from what I gather from other people,
Charlie's hitting all my hot buttons tonight, man.
You can work his hive without a veil, without much fear. And I mean, if they're that calm, and
now, hey, in spring,
I need to go there myself and see this myself.
In spring, when everybody's getting their nukes and everything, I can do that. I can open mine up and work them, no gloves, no veil, everything's wonderful. But you let it start getting tight on some nectar flow or something like that, and they don't want anything near them.
Yeah.
It's
raising your queens. People ask. I'll go back to the little example we did a few years ago. We did, and people are going to be asking what OTS is, but we did an OTS workshop here at my place, and we had lots and lots of people attend. It was a really well attended event, and OTS is just a way to raise your own queens. I'll just say that for those who don't know. And the program, as it's presented, basically has you replacing your queens in 11 months, 10 to 11 months. So they're never even a year old. And the whole presentation was done, and one of the senior members from the back of the room said, "How long do your queens live?" to the presenter. And he said, "Don't know. 11 months. That's it. I don't know how long they'll live, because I don't let them. I just replace them, because it's so easy for them to replace the queens using the OTS system." And I think there's wisdom in that, yeah, people talk about these 5, 6, 7-year-old queens back in the day. But if you're raising your own queens, it's really not that hard. And there's no reason to have old queens. There's people. I think Bob Binney is one of them. Just new queens every year, right? You just get them in there, replace them. It's not hard to do, and there's so many different ways that you can do that. People say, "Well, I can't graft. I can't see very well. I can't graft." Something like, you don't have to graft. Well, I don't have the resources for a cell builder. Well, yes, you do. Maybe you just don't know how little it takes if you want to do it small scale. So there's no reason, I don't think, that you can't raise your own queens.
And if you can't see, put glasses on.
There's always magnification, and I mean there is having person who's had vision problems. There's a point when no, you just can't.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But you get a buddy to do it. If you have children, get them to do it or something. But that is, I think that being able to raise queens in any capacity, even if it's leaving a colony to get into swarm mode and pulling the cells and making nukes out of those. I think that knowledge on how to raise queens is the most powerful thing that you can do in beekeeping.
Yeah.
Right? Because it just completely. I remember when I started doing it, and I would say all the time, this has changed my life. I remember the first year, and I had mating nukes on the side of my apiary full of freshly mated queens. Holy cow! I'd look in a colony. There's something wrong. This queen's not. She's not right.
She's gone.
10 steps, and I've got a new queen. Right? It just absolutely
But then
revolutionized.
the beauty of that is now you can technically, I know we wouldn't do that, but technically, once you take that queen out of that mating nuke, if she's been in there a minute and you introduce her to the new colony, those bees will now make a new queen. If you just walk away and did nothing, they will attempt to make a queen in there.
Technically, yes, you're right. Even a tiny mini will do that. In reality, then you just want to watch how strong they are, because how strong they are, how many resources they have, will impact the quality of that queen in the long run. But yes, you're right. They will. I know people who do that. Not in my area, but I know of people who do that. They just keep taking the queen out and they just make another queen. You can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's half the time it's called a walk-away split.
But then your honey production colony has a new queen, and your resource colony is absorbing the time delay, if you will, of the brood hatching out, bees dying, and waiting.
I believe Fred Dunn does walk-away splits all the time, and he said they're great. He loves it. So learn how to do a good walk-away split. Nothing wrong with that.
Well, I was going to put a Aaron's comment up, but it looks like Todd already addressed it in the chat there. So
I wanted to add to the conversation here about what Mark was asking. So yes, obviously, if you can learn how to graft, that'd be the optimal thing to do. But if I was a guy that had 3 or 4 hives right now, and I've been there, and I didn't realize this until I got more into these bee chats and stuff and watching videos on YouTube. But if I had 3 or 4 hives and I wanted to split them, but I need to order queens and I didn't know how to graft, what I used to do, or what I did, was I'd buy some queens, but they would, and I do it in April. Well, by October they puttered out. They weren't fully mated. Well, one of the things I learned was, I mean, they were fully mated, they were poorly mated. But one of the things I learned was that most of the queen breeders, and it's not their fault, they're running a business, they only run those queens for 21 days. And then they cage them, then they sell them. But if you could get a queen breeder to hold you 28-day queens, that extra week gives that queen that boost of confidence in herself of laying eggs. And so there's a thing that's about those older queens before you get them that lasts longer because of, I guess, bee psychology. But also, obviously, mating has something to do with it. But if they've been laying for 28 days under that breeder or the queen breeder, they typically come out, better. and they last longer. So that's something that I've learned over the years. But of
And
course, I've switched to grafting, so
the other component there too, Todd, with the commercially purchased queens is, and it'll vary depending on location of both the seller and the
Mhm.
beekeeper, is transport. There could be
Correct,
all kinds of crazy things go on in transport, and
correct,
maybe those queens will be no good when they get there,
correct.
and being caged for whatever length of time.
Hmm.
They're caged for a week, and then you get them, and you're not quite ready for them, so they're caged for another 5 days, and
Hmm. Well,
just
that's the
raise your own queens. It fixes all that.
yeah, exactly right. But if you did have to order them, you need to narrow it down to the day. Usually they'll overnight them to you,
Hmm.
and boom, when you need
We
them.
deal with probably a lot more consistent problems than you do because of different restrictions on getting
Yeah,
queens, and a lot of
across
our
the
queens come
border.
from a lot farther away than across the
Yeah,
country. They'll come from
yeah.
Venezuela, you know, New Zealand.
Guys, I posted the link in Facebook and on YouTube. So if you click the link to come in, please tonight make sure that you don't have YouTube open and that your sound isn't doing the echo thing, because I will mute you quick tonight. Most people that come on the stream know how to do it, but if you're first time, just make sure that you're watching it through the StreamYard and not through YouTube, because we'll get this crazy echo, and it's a little bit, well, not a little bit, it's a lot of bit annoying, because by the time you say something, it's come back through 3 times and it's just a mess. But
Yeah.
definitely welcome to come in and join the chat. I think we can have 9 or 10 people in here at one time. And
Bob, I do want to go back to Aaron's question about the pollen.
I got to start. I'll throw it up here. There we go.
He's seeing the same thing I am. I have no idea where the white is coming from. I do know that almonds, I believe, are white pollen, but obviously almonds are not blooming right now. In my area, I have eucalyptus trees, and he's up in the Bay Area. I'm pretty certain there's eucalyptus trees up there. My eucalyptus trees have red buds on them, and I think that's where the white pollen's coming from. I also have light yellow, bright yellow, and orange coming in. Orange, I know, is dandelion because I've seen dandelions here and there.
I've got a little bit of red coming in, like a bright red.
Yeah, it's like I said the other night. Mother Nature is a mad scientist, and she's going to do what she's going to do, and plants follow. So who knows what's going on? But I think the white is from eucalyptus, but I can't be sure.
All right.
Man, Charlie thought eucalyptus was a bush, but no, that's a big tree.
Okay, so I only run 5. Well, I can't say only. I run, depending on time of the year, 2, 5, 6, 10. That's all that I've done. I know Todd runs 8-frame equipment. Charlie runs you run 10-frame mediums, and Brad is
I run 10-frame mediums in my production hives, and then in my nukes I run most of them are all 5/5.
So we've got someone new getting ready to join.
But now I want to contribute on the being self-sustainability. When you can learn, I don't care how you do it, when you can be able to raise your own queens, that is the absolute key of becoming self-sustainable.
Yeah.
And like Brad said, when you got queens over here in these mating box, you don't think about killing that queen that's failing, because you're thinking before you have queens over there and you don't have any queens, it's like, do I want to spend $40 for a new queen? Now, if you got 10 queens sitting off to the side in mating boxes, it's like, it don't cost me anything. I walk over there, pick the queen out, let's say cage her so we can, get her introduced to the next hive. And there's
And it's immediate. It's
Oh, he
not.
didn't see. He
Call
didn't.
your bee supply, order a queen, wait a week, or whatever.
I've got someone that's trying to
5
join.
minutes,
I
you've
think
solved the problem.
Ryan Sanders. It says they will need to connect their mic/cam before you can add them to the stream. So Ryan, if you're listening, that's what the reason why you haven't been added in yet.
Hey, and one thing that Charlie just mentioned, and we've all been there, it is so hard to pinch that first queen. You will stare at, you won't want to do it. You're just like,
But what you can do is take her in one frame and move her off to a zombie hive, right?
Zombie hive.
Yeah.
See, that's part of the zombie hive philosophy is that I don't have to kill the queens because I really do hate doing it.
A little bit.
But
really hate
the way I look at it, once you
problem picking them off.
but the very first time you do it, it's the hardest thing to do. But here's the way to look at it. Yeah, it's hard, but once you do it, you realize you're gaining things like resource frames, and you can either freeze it if you pinch a queen in October and you only have one hive, throw look at all the frames, put the ones you need to put away in the freezer to save for next year, and boom, think about it like you're way ahead of the game in April or whenever you start in the spring, when you get your queen. But it's the hardest thing to do is to pinch that first queen. Then after that, you realize, look, I'm doing it for either A, the good of the hive, or B, to expand or to grow in knowledge. And, it's tough, but you get through it. Don't be afraid of it.
Well, hey, James.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Hey, James.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Well, I think Ryan has added his mic and not his face on here. It's always suspect because I've done this before and gotten some bad some bad. Oh, there he is. There we go. Okay. Hey, Ryan.
What's up, guys? How you doing?
How's it going? And we got Joseph Rawls coming in.
He's
Hey, Joe.
Ryan there's about 2.5. Let's see now. You're about an hour and a half from my house.
Yeah, we're close.
He's up there. He's
I like your
on
cabin there.
he's on the Potomac River up there.
Thank you. Yep, I'm up by Harper's Ferry, halfway point
Harper's
there on
Ferry.
the AT trail.
Which is close to Frederick.
You got it.
Did the so are you say rookie beekeeper? Rookie as in 1-2 colonies, 10 colonies, don't have any yet, or
No, I've got about 10 hives here at the house. I've been doing it for 4 or 5 years now, I guess. But yeah.
Turn that camera to that back wall over there.
huh?
I'm sorry.
Turn your camera to your back to that wall. No, the other way. Stop. Let's see. We got banjo. We got mandolin.
I
Okay.
called that real quick.
Oh no, we got what is that? A ukulele banjo?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
wow.
got
There
some
we
stuff here.
It sounds like a pick and jam session to me there.
Yeah, man. Good stuff. That was my uncle's. That thing's like, I don't know, 100 some years old, apparently.
Oh, wow.
Well, it's as old as Charlie.
I got a Charlie too.
He's got more hair than Charlie does.
You guys need to
Check
lay
your
off
guys'
on-
stuff here, but
Charlie. He gets such. That's wonder he comes on
Poor
here.
Poor Charlie gets picked on all the time.
Eh,
We love Charlie.
And you know what? That's the whole reason I jumped on Charlie's channel that one night last year. Like, hey, I want to just stop you guys from picking on Charlie about this single brood management thing. And then, wham, here we go.
yeah.
Brian just made a comment there. He's got a good point about queens. He says old queens are great for the observation hive you take to the market.
Oh, that's true.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Over the years, I've done that so many times, and yeah, there are a couple of times I bring that queen back, and she's either dead or going to be dead pretty soon. So, hauling those queens around, that's kind of dangerous for them. And an old queen it's kind of like the old pony at the petting zoo. It's kind of the last good thing they can do.
So, James, what have you been up to? We know what you went and did, but what are you up to now?
Right, I'm sitting in front of the fire, and my wife came over and she says, "Hey, Bob sent me a link. You should be the StreamYard." So
She's trying to get
here,
rid of you.
here I am, trying to get rid of it. Yeah. No, just kind of taking it easy here. So tomorrow, back out, get the wood shop cleaned up, get the garage cleaned up a little bit more, so I can bring that equipment in the new year and start getting that all cleaned up and powder coated and gone through that. And just waiting to get some quotes on some material for freight. I'm over by Brad's to see whether I'm making another road trip or if we're throwing it on the truck, because we've got we have at least 300 boxes and 3,000 frames we've got to build, so at minimum. So
Yeah, dropping the hat.
Just like that.
And in a month, you're going to take a trip to Texas, right?
What's in Texas?
I don't know.
No, I was that. Oh, actually, I just went through Dallas. So,
Well, that's true. Yeah.
but,
Well,
And
no, you
didn't stop at a Buc-ee's, man. I can't believe it.
You have to come to California, James.
I can't afford
the almonds will bloom, and you'll get to see that. It's amazing. And
Union Bee Company says, "Are you going to build or are you going to assemble?"
Well, that depends on the price. Probably just assemble it.
For me, I mean, especially at that scale, the build is actually, that's not really even an option anymore. I mean, you work a full-time job, right? So to build 300 boxes, the time drain would be too much.
Yeah, but when you crunch the numbers, I can't cut them out for what I can buy them. You can't.
You cannot.
Just assemble them together and support those that do that. But yeah, there's no way I can.
And if you're going to source the common 7/8 lumber we use here, you don't buy that just anywhere. So
No.
you're actually going to the box builder to buy the lumber.
Exactly.
So I think you'd be a fool to try and cut the joints and everything yourself.
Yeah, no, you just can't. You can't make it. So yeah, it'll be assembly. Now I am building, so I do have some stuff I have to build. So I've got a sump, or clarifier, if you will. So we have got one of those drawn up and drafted up here. So that will be being built here in the new year. We're working on a closed loop heating system so that we can heat the jackets on the sump and the knives and a few other things like that. So we're working on that as well. That we're going to be building, and then it's just a matter of time to see what else we have on our list. But I did a quick count. Actually, I was out yesterday. One of the girls got me on the neck yesterday. Just making sure things are all sealed up. So we had a little bit of sealing to do and stuff out there for a couple exercises that I got to do in the bee bar here after Christmas. So we did a bunch of that yesterday. One of the girls decided they wanted to make sure that my blood venom content was still in proportion. So a couple of them nailed me there. But other than that, it's steady as she goes. Now, here I'll watch Brad cringe on this because it came to light that the bees are going to be coming out of the barn in 3 months. So
3 months.
3 months.
Just around the corner.
You're bringing them out in March?
Yeah.
the end of March, beginning of
late March.
So
yeah, I think the earliest I've brought them out is about the end of the first week in March. Generally not that early, but it's usually the last week of March, first week of April.
Yeah, I'm going to be shooting for the first week of April. Like I said, I can control my temperature there pretty good, which is a good thing because this is our first black or brown Christmas since 1985. So I can still walk out all the way out to my vehicle in my socked feet and not get them wet. We have very little to almost no snow here at all. So that doesn't happen here in Alberta very often. It's kind of got me scared because the law of averages, and you look at what our average temperature is. January and February could be a tough one.
So for those watching that are on everybody else's links here and everything, James is in Alberta, so more west, the western side of Canada, right? Because you don't have it underneath your name like we do there, to let people know. And
He's on this side of the Rocky Mountains,
and
or whatever you call them up
down
there.
southeast Louisiana.
In Canada, we call the Rocky Mountains the Rocky Mountains.
Okay, I didn't know.
The mountains.
Yeah, actually, the mountains.
The mountains. I went to the Smoky Mountains this weekend, and or what we called Smoky Mountains, which are pretty much hills compared to the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah, Bob had me thinking. He said, "I think we're going to go to the mountains for a couple of days." I thought, well, that's a bit of a drive. That's got to be 24 hours for you.
3-hour drive for me. So
That's like Colorado.
So I kind of jumped on Ryan there. Did you actually tell us how many hives you had and all that, or did we give you a chance to tell us all about yourself?
Okay.
5 years, I think, is what I remember.
Yeah, about 4 or 5 years now, beekeeping. Right, I got 10 hives here at the house, and you're about an hour, right? It's probably 50 degrees up there today for you too.
Yep, it was.
So all the bees were buzzing, moving in and out of the hives, which is good. So just trying to make them through winter, just like everybody else, right? And kind of go from there. So I know it's a fun hobby. I kind of got into it because my brother he got into it about a year before me, and then I was like, man, I got to do this. So it's cool. Still learning, lots to learn, right? There's so much. So and like everybody, right? The whole 8 to 5 job thing, Monday through Friday, gets in the way. So that doesn't help.
So doing mostly all deep type brood chambers.
Yep. So I've got 8s, 10s. I've got a mix of everything, and so
all that. All right, that's cool.
Yeah,
I have to stop. If I go that way occasionally, I'll maybe connect and get stop by.
Yeah, for sure. Any of you guys going to the North American Honeybee Expo down in Kentucky?
I am.
All right, I'll be down there too. So, maybe try to
drive it or flying.
I'm driving down.
Okay. So which way are you going to go? Are you going to cross West Virginia or are you going to cross Ohio?
I'm going to I took off all that week, so I'm kind of making a little bit of a trip out of it. So I was going to hit Point Pleasant up there, see the Mothman, and then keep on just kind of working my way over. So
you can go a long way in a week.
What's that?
So you can go a long way in a week.
Yeah, for sure. I got some. I got to do the Bourbon Trail while I'm down there. Hit a couple of distilleries up and going to an NCAA basketball game. So I'm kind of making a trip out of it. So I got some time off from work.
Your mic is messing up there, Ryan.
Can't hear you anymore, Ryan.
Oh, mic check 1 2. Can you hear me?
Now,
yeah,
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Now it's.
And then it went away again. So mic check was perfect. It was after.
No.
And now it's muted. No.
Now you're muted. Yep.
Check.
Yeah, now you're better.
Yeah, sorry, I'm video etiquette here is not the greatest. I'm on a cell phone, so I just I found you guys by accident just scrolling through Facebook here. So
see, the Facebook link worked. There you go.
See?
That's how we find most people, that they usually
Go to
this is completely by accident. We never
okay.
Come to my YouTube channel, Sawmill Charlie's Bee Farm, and subscribe, and then you'll get a notification for mine.
Okay, cool. Charlie's Bee Farm.
Yeah, Sawmill
Sawmill
Charlie's
Charlie.
Bee Farm.
Sawmill Charlie's Bee Farm. Okay, got it.
And then Walker Bee Ranch.
Yeah, everybody up here's got a YouTube channel.
Got it. Perfect.
So-
I'm just gonna screenshot this. That way I have it for later.
Yeah, Walker Bee Ranch and Sawmill Charlie, and then also Kodiak Farms, which
And there's Lee.
Bob, yeah, if you see that's Kodiak Farm Bees, him and Bob share a Tuesday night channel.
Yeah, we do
Cool.
a Tuesday night stream. It
Awesome.
alternates between my channel and his channel. So pretty much any night of the week, you could find a live stream if you want to talk about bees.
Nice.
For sure.
So, is this your guys like full-time jobs, or you guys working?
No,
Yeah,
it's Brad's
I'm
full
the
time
only-
job.
Yes
I'm
and
the
no.
only full timer on the screen, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brad's the commercial guy.
Okay.
Brad's running a not for profit organization in
Not
Canada.
intentionally, but yeah, it turned out that way.
All right, that's cool.
That's no
I got you. So everyone's got an 8 to 5, and then you're doing the hobby thing here.
Yeah, I got 30 hives, and Brad's what Todd, you got what, 75, 100?
No, I'm down a little. I'm down to 63 right now.
Wow.
And then James here, he's up in Alberta, and
We can't keep track of how many James is running.
yeah,
for
I don't know
bees.
what he's
got
definitely
300.
sideliner if he's not pushing. Well, I'm going to say he's
Changes day
commercial
to day
now.
with James.
When he bought a brand, he's got a used cow and extractor line. He
He has 3 hive lifters too. So you know he's big.
Okay.
and he's averaging what, 300
Charlie
hives.
don't have any.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to get me one of them some bitches.
I'm just collecting them.
We're
Okay.
gonna shame you into it.
There you
See,
go.
what he's going to do is he's going to come down one time. He's going to have one in the back of the truck.
He's going to
And
drive.
he's going to get the impulse buy off of Charlie. Hey, Charlie, I really could let this one go if you want to get it. And he's like, he'll start making it rain.
Okay.
Being
Nice.
back with James there.
So I hear Alberta. How are you in Calgary, or how far up are you?
Man knows where he's at.
I'm 8. Well, call it 8.5 hours northwest of Calgary.
Okay.
Grand Prairie.
So is that St. Albert or something further up that way too, or?
Yeah, so St. Albert is over by Edmonton. So
Okay.
once you hit Edmonton, go another 4.5
Go
hours
Oilers.
west.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Robert.
Go Caps. Right on. Cool.
So
Jose said Jose said,
Hey.
oh, you going live and I'm on a commercial break for the 49ers game.
I have the game on mute, dude.
I'll tell you what, Jose does a
Jump
great
in,
job.
man. Jump in.
And
Jose.
I got my annual Christmas card from Jose and the family there.
Oh, nice.
So I'm on the mailing list. Woo woo. So nice Christmas card. Let's see. Well, DC just popped up.
Oh my.
We've been live. Where you been, DC? You're usually one of the first people.
Yeah,
Probably
it's not
been
the
neat.
same without you.
So anyway, Ryan, we have a lot of good
Thank you,
Good.
Lee.
times, talking here, and we try to help everybody out with all kinds of information. If you got a question, how to do something, or I'm having this problem in the hive or whatever, there might be somebody here in the chat can help you out.
Yeah,
you know,
well,
Stuff like that. Your sounds
you have
going.
to remember though, if you ask 7 beekeepers a question, you're probably get about 80 different answers.
Yeah, that's one thing I've learned here. There's so much information, and it's the world 2023 world of tech, Facebook. It's like there's always the Debbie Downers. People want to beat you down, right? It's easy to why are you doing it this way? Why are you doing it that way? But yeah, so there is a lot out there, and
you got to get thick skin and do like I do. I just, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and then everybody's got, even if they really don't know what they're talking about, there's always a tidbit of information, and even if that little tidbit of information is ignore this, At least
Yeah,
you've learned something, some good, some bad. So just take the good with the bad.
yeah, we all have the same goal, right? Keep the, everyone's either wants the honey to sell it for profit, or we all want the hives to thrive and do good. And then of course, climate, depending on where you guys are at, right? North, south, that's all going to change. You guys are going to get different results and different hives. So yeah, we all have the same goal really in the end. So
I've got it, Ryan. I've got a different. I've come to the dark side on that perspective. What you just said, depending where your climate is, because I'm here it comes. So, what I've tried to do is I've been that fella right in the middle, and that one up in the top right there for me, Brad and James. I've been trying to mimic, and Ian, who's not on here, mimic what they're doing, just by shifting my calendar. Right. So applying what they're doing up north to grow their bees and to be successful. But I'm doing it in a southern climate. So things that people are doing down here, I'm kind of ignoring what I've done the first several years and like pollen patties on now instead of waiting, or, just trying to shift that a little bit. And the jury's out. We'll see in the spring how it plays out. But right now, my bees look better than they have ever. So that's what it's been working so far. Knock on wood.
I got you. So when you say shift the calendar, your calendar, like define that. What do you mean exactly?
So prime example is. This is This is from the book of James McNally, chapters 1 through 3. Is chapter and verse. So you have to go back to
first edition or second.
Okay, anybody that's been watching this, they'll know it comes back to the life cycle of the bee.
There you go.
Right. So the bee, we all know it takes 21 days for a worker, 23 days for a drone, and 16 days for a queen. Right. So you start from when you need things to happen, and you have to rotate your calendar backwards, right? Start 21 days, 16 days. So if I need stuff to start happening here the 1st of February for the ramp up, then I need to start sliding my calendar backwards, right?
6 weeks.
6 weeks when I start doing things.
Okay.
And so last year was the first year we started implementing this process, but it was already a little bit later in the year. So this year is the first spring that I'm coming into where I've actually said, okay, well, if I need them to start on February, and I've got some people waiting, so be patient. I'll get to you guys, get you in here. And started sliding my calendar, working backwards to when I needed to start putting pollen patty on and making sure they had the resources, because I have slabs of brood in some of my colonies right now. So if they're not bringing in natural pollen, I need to make sure they have something to eat, because those are the bees that come February 1st are now raising the brood that I need to make my splits, make my nukes, all of that stuff that I'm going to do in the spring. But if I were to just wait, then they may or may not have the population I need to do that. Hey, Tom. Didn't mean to ignore you. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah. I'm just listening. Don't bother talking. Or I mean, yeah,
well, introduce yourself, Tom. I see you're from Connecticut.
Yeah,
right?
No, that's why I wanted to come on, Brad, just to say, man, those videos you posted, I showed the wife and I posted them on my page. You're singing. That was good job, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
Little hobby.
I've got someone named Lankford waiting to come in, but
see if it'll come in, Bob.
That's oh gosh, Tennessee. No, what the heck is his?
He doesn't have his micro can connected, so it won't allow me to add him until he fixes that. So
he has a channel.
I can't remember. Speaking of mics, look what my daughter got me for Christmas.
A wallet.
Because he's
hold all the money that you made this year.
Brad's been telling me.
Oh, lapel mic.
Yeah. That'll
get
work
some
well
mites.
for you.
So
Hey, you need to get one of those big fuzzy cattails to put on it and hang it right on your collar.
You know, the ones that one that James held up, I bought one of those, a pair of those off of Facebook, and they work excellent. And you
Yeah.
so
could you could
my
clip them inside your hood.
my daughter got me these, so I've just got them all charged up. I'm gonna get it hooked up probably tomorrow.
Well, those
And
things are awesome.
so
Yeah,
pretty.
I like that kind of you can clip it right inside the veil, and
There you go.
it's great
Yeah,
sound.
it's
So we'll,
small. It works great.
Doesn't rub
I'm,
on stuff.
I'm excited to try these. And then
Awesome.
my wife figured I should step up my videos a little bit too. So everybody's guilting me into putting more videos on them. So
And that video thing, it kind of turns into a job from what I see.
Oh, yeah.
Or you're gonna
Live
get some
streams
aerials.
become a job, too.
yeah, my wife got me a drone. So an updated drone with a 4K camera.
See, Ed.
So you're not the only useless male in the yard. Now you got an extra drone.
Touche.
Hey, Bob. That
Yes, sir.
the Langford you were talking about, if this
Yeah.
is the same one, he has a channel. It's called Woolly Bees Apiary.
Oh,
He's in
well, Willie
Tennessee.
Bees. I watched his channel.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
down in Tennessee.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, well, hopefully he can get his mic and camera there connected, and we'll get him in here.
Doug snuck in. Hey, Doug.
Yes. Hey, Doug. Merry Christmas.
Real quiet.
Probably
Same
have
to
to
you,
go into
Bob.
settings on the Safari browser and then click on mic and camera and allow it. It's probably being denied.
Yeah, that's what I do on my phone.
Yep.
James
Somebody-
is the,
Something
I
on
have to say,
Charlie,
I like Bob's name because that's an
Time
awesome.
you said you
Yeah, Doug. Go ahead.
said you were a booking agent at one time. I think Brad could maybe use one after what I've seen.
That's not the first offer I've had. I'll tell you that, Doug.
Yeah, he's quite a singer there,
Oh, thanks, guys.
and he's also recorded. I think he's cut some albums.
Well, I don't know how many tracks. Probably 6 or 8 tracks.
That's enough for a
the No
couple
Life Christmas
EPs or
party.
something.
that's it. We're the no life beekeeping
Live
chat.
Christmas party. It was nice to see new faces. And I just want to point out to everybody, I know Doug is normally on a bit of a delay, so Doug will try and jump in, and I know that throws the conversation.
Doug
a
is
bit.
also from what, Manitoba, Canada?
Yeah, he's in Saskatchewan actually, right, Doug?
Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan,
Okay.
right on the border. I can throw a
So-
stone and hit Manitoba.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
That-
we wish
Everybody
you'd
wants
stop,
to stone Manitoba.
Knock it off.
so Tom,
Just throw those.
yeah, Tom, how many hives y'all got, and where are you at with your bees?
So we went into winter with 77.
Bookie.
So
Nice.
we'll see what we come out with.
How much? I just was reading that other comment. How many hives?
77.
77.
That was the
All right.
count going into winter, but that's not going to be the count coming out of winter, so it doesn't.
Well,
really-
never is.
Yeah, it never is.
Do you, since you're in Connecticut, do you wrap your hives or just leave them
No,
out?
no. Wrapping in Connecticut is worse, I think, because the thing is, like maybe a -6-degree day or two a year, but then there'll be that one random day where it's
40.
snow on the ground in the middle of winter and the sun will come out, and if you wrap your hives, the bees just come bursting out, right? And they shouldn't be doing that. I don't think so.
And that's Fahrenheit -6.
yeah, Fahrenheit -6. Yeah.
Okay.
So
That's
no,
pretty
I
chilly.
don't wrap them. I put insulation on the top,
Thanks.
under the outer cover, and I reduce the entrance and feed them and treat for mites. And I have good overwintering success. Last year we went in with 43. I think we came out with like 41 or something like that. But then I combined small ones. It was in the high 30s in the end. So
Right.
but that's we're growing. My big part of the business is actually making equipment, like beehives and stuff. So.
Oh, you and Brad are competing now.
Hey,
God,
this
no,
is
China's the competition. You see all these Chinese hives getting imported, and now
Yeah, Bob gets
Yeah.
free ones all the time.
they're gonna set
I
them
got
up
one now. I got to do a video on free
in New
Chinese hives.
Zealand, all sort. Like one of the few thriving industries, wood stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, you're in Connecticut. See, is that close to New Hampshire?
Yeah,
Or not?
one state south. And
I was
wait,
just thinking about Jim up there. He's what, New Hampshire or Connecticut? Vino Hive.
No, he's in
Oh,
Massachusetts,
he's
right?
in Barron, Mass. Actually, that's where my grandparents lived there.
Oh, okay. I didn't know whether you were selling him equipment or not.
So this
He's the one that makes the bee barn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to message with him. I did exchange a couple because I offered to kind of manufacture the frames for him, but he wants to go with plastic. So, boo.
this is an interesting statement here because Brad and I had this whole discussion, right? About the insulated hives and insulated hives actually keeping
Way to go, Jim.
the heat, right? Keeping the heat out.
Yep.
So actually, I think the actual statement was it's separating the outside temperature, right? It's not really letting the bees, it's not keeping them warm, right? They're not heating that like an air conditioner. It just keeps whatever the temperature is outside from encroaching on whatever temperature they want to have on the inside, whether it's hot outside or cold outside.
To help understanding is misunderstanding is that insulation keeps things warm, and it doesn't. It doesn't. That breaks the laws of thermodynamics. You need energy to keep things warm. Insulation provides a thermal decoupling, right? So if you have a wall, any kind of a product, and you heat one side of it, then there will be a heat transfer from there to the other side, right? So if you put insulation between two, then that thermally decouples those two. Okay, it doesn't keep things warm. It can very well keep things cool, as Bob knows. In your house, you were having trouble with keeping your house cool in the summer, so you added insulation.
Yep.
Well, that's exactly what it's doing. It's decoupling the heat transfer. The R value of insulation, when you look at it, the R is resistance to heat transfer, is what the insulation product will do. So the theory, and this goes into my theory, is that bees like a consistent environment, right? Bees perform well in a consistent environment. And the more you can decouple the effect of the outside environment from the inside of the hive, the better. And these polyhives here are a good example. Bees do really well in those, particularly in my variable climate that I have. And one of the things that those hives don't allow as much or mitigate is thermal gain. So people talk a lot about thermal gain. Well, I want the sun to shine on my hives to keep the bees warm. I don't believe that's true. I believe you want to keep the sun off of those hives so that they don't get that heat spike in the day, and then it cools right down at night again, because it's those fluctuations is what's hard on the bees.
That's why I don't wrap. That's why I don't wrap my hives for what you just said right there. Yep.
I was going to say,
Exactly. And if you were to wrap, Tom, and maybe an experiment that you could do, which would be really interesting, I would think, would be wrap some of the hives in a Reflectix product.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have a lot of R value, but it will reflect all of that solar gain.
Well, so when I say wrap, I'm only talking about tar paper. I used to wrap with tar paper.
Yeah.
And
which builds solar gain. Offers no R
yeah,
value.
Yeah,
it builds solar gain.
More harm than good. Yeah.
So what I'm saying with the Reflectix is it's silver, so it's going to completely reflect all of that solar gain and not transmit any of that back into the hive. And in my theory, that would be what you want. Right? Are your hives white?
Yep. They're varying colors.
Okay.
white, wood grain, all sorts of things.
Yeah.
What are the
Honestly,
Maybe
right
that's the
now,
choice. White would be
my
best.
my recipe seems to be working, so I'm just kind of sticking with it. But on
Absolutely.
the, you know, that researcher, I shouldn't even say researcher, that guy from England, his recent study he just published that's been getting blasted all over the interwebs. If you
Yeah.
actually go into the references on that, he refers to a study on the insulated polystyrene hives versus a regular wooden hive.
Yeah.
And what you said um, there was exactly what it said, right? It stabilized the temperature. It
Right.
didn't increase the temperature more. So
Right.
the average temperature in a wooden hive was like 9.73 something like that Celsius. And then the average temperature in the polystyrene hive was like 10 something.
Yeah.
So for
Yeah.
Fahrenheit, we're only talking about 2 or 3 degrees difference,
Yeah. Exactly.
but it was a stabler temperature, right? So
And see,
the
that
wooden hive
translates into
warmed up.
the indoor wintering that I do, right? So I've got two big advantages for the indoor wintering, besides the fact that they're not going to get blown over by the wind, is that there's no solar gain. They're in complete darkness. There's absolutely no solar gain on those hives for 5 months straight. And if all goes well, it's a absolutely consistent, rock solid 4 degrees Celsius in that room for 5 months straight. So
Hmm.
those two things, I think, are the big advantages to indoor wintering. And you can approximate that outside with things like reflective insulation that don't allow that solar gain, you know, on and on.
Yeah.
I,
So you winter completely in the shed, or do you?
that's right.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it has mostly to do with my workload. I'm managing these hives by myself. I'm kind of a old, out of shape guy, and it's far easier for me to pick those up with my tractor, move them into the building, than it is to try and wrap hives.
Gotcha. Do you ever see the where were they from? There's a guy mating queens through a shed, and he was timing his mating flights off of the shed. So
Hmm.
he built like this whole railroad system coming out of his
Okay.
shed, and then he had all of his mating nooks on chains spaced apart. And he would cool the shed to X degrees, right? And then pull them all out at a certain time to like time out when the queens were going for a
Oh,
mating flight. It was
Sounds like
amazing
a lot
to
of
see
work.
like the amount of work that went in.
wow.
I was just
Wow.
looking at the chains and the dollars of everything. I was like, holy
Yeah.
cow.
Well, sometimes our dreams get away on us. I have ideas like that too, and by the time I've implemented it, I'm thinking, oh dear,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's never
Well,
going to
that
pay
and
itself.
and the queens are just like, oh yeah, well I guess we'll mate.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just like normal.
well
So
with
I
your
think that whole thing, and that's one of the
one of the
interesting things
biggest
of
things.
talking to people from different climates is I think that whole study of what the colony really benefits from. What do they need is because they're so resilient. Bees are so tough when it comes to cold weather, but what's optimal for them? What offers the least amount of I'm going to say stress, but they don't want to adapt to changing conditions and all this kind of stuff. So I think it's fascinating to talk to people in different locations, um, people who think about this, like yourself, right? And um, just to get different ideas and build on the concepts that are kind of making themselves apparent.
Yeah. Well, it seems no matter what your environment is, right? And this is with any, I mean, I'm just spitballing here, but with any sort of species, right? Stress builds strength, right? So Canadian stress up there is going to be different than Connecticut stress, which is going to be different than South Carolina stress, right? And so that's
Oh
where,
yeah.
everybody,
Oh yeah.
your bees will just naturally, the right winter's the ultimate genetic test right there, right? And
And that
it'll,
throws us right back into what I talked about earlier, raising your own queens. You want to bring queens from a
yeah,
far off land, or do you want to raise queens from your own stock that has actually been living through those winters for that length of time. And so you always, and that's the first thing that Randy Oliver always says. People ask him, well, how do you do selection for queens? And we all know that he's doing the mite tolerant selection and all that, but he loves to do little jokes and try and slide jokes past you that you don't get, and then he'll grin and chuckle, and he'll say his very top number one criteria for queen selection for breeding is he never breeds from a dead queen. All right. And it usually takes a few seconds to get a chuckle on that because it sounds absurd, but there's a lot of depth to that. And to me, the depth on that is take your survivor stock. That's a good start. Don't overthink your selection criteria because if that queen has lived through the winter, she's got a really good gold star there to start with. And then you can go from there for other criteria. But living through that winter, that's a really good start.
Yep. Or finish.
Yeah, Ryan wants
Ryan,
something.
jump
Go
in.
ahead, Ryan. You unmute. There you go.
Hey, so since you guys are kind of talking about cold winters and all this stuff, I don't know if you guys were talking about feeding earlier. I think you were when I was kind of in the other chat. So some of you guys have like 70, 80 hives and more. Like, what are you guys doing for feeding? Are you putting feeder trays, like stacking them right on top of your deeps, or how are you guys doing this with 75, 100 plus hives?
Buckets.
Buckets.
Depends on the weather.
Yeah, because you guys aren't
Temperatures.
typically opening these things up when it's super cold out, right? So
No.
No, the design of our
2-inch hole
lid
in the
has
lid.
exactly a hole. Well, actually, here.
2-inch hole in the lid and an inverted bucket over top.
I'll be the odd one out. I use frame feeders.
So
2
this is
gallon. Well,
Frame
not
feeder?
really 2 gallon, but yeah.
this is the size of the hole that we have in the top of our lid. And you take
Mhm.
you'll pull this out and you just put your bucket right on top of the lid. They'll empty the bucket through the hole.
wow,
I use
okay. And then
everything.
you're using top feeders, you said, on yours?
Me?
Connecticut, I think. I can't see the
Oh
name.
no,
Tom.
I use in hive feeders. They'll just division board feeders.
Okay. Huh.
The reason I do it, so the buckets is actually a little bit more. I think it's easier, right? It's easier for storing. It's easier for feeding and everything. But honestly, like I'm not going to go through and change out all my outer covers and stuff. And then I build equipment that has to meet my customers' needs. So I'm not going to build myself specialized stuff, and that's different. You know what I mean? So
I
And in
gotcha.
our case here, frame feeders would be fine. We can't lose that frame, right? I need that frame because I'm not feeding them for subsistence. I'm feeding them for stores for the winter. So they need to have 10 frames of solid stores for winter. I can't lose that frame or 2, depending on what feeder you have. So that's really the only reason
I
that I would
gotcha. And
use them.
where did the insert go into that you just showed me there in the center?
Just we drill a hole in the top. Brad is actually you take a look at Brad's channel. He shows you how to build the lids and the
Okay.
outside.
Cool.
This is just
Yeah, it's just a hole in the cover.
drill a hole right in the center of the top of the cover.
The top cover. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Hey,
Doug,
Tom,
And
Tom, speak a little bit about your business. Do you have a website where people could go to buy equipment? Do you do that or what?
yeah, no, I have a website. It's like 3 years out of date. It's just unionbeecompany.com.
Oh, okay.
I'll drop that in the link here.
But essentially, I mean, I'm growing, right? So right now, I'm building all my own machines because I'm basically my secret goal is one day Man Lake's gonna wake up and be like, "Where did this guy come from?"
that's awesome. I love that.
But the thing is, I don't have the money to buy machines, so I'm building all my own machines. So I started off with a box joiner, and then I'm just buttoning up my top bar machine right now. And then instead of doing a sidebar thing, I'm gonna actually make a queen cage next, and then after that will be the sidebar. So
I also have a company.
no, we've talked on the phone, Bob.
Have we?
Yes, we have. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
For what, Swarm Rustler or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was interested in the whatever the probiotic.
Oh, Apis.
Apis
Apis
Biologics.
Biologics.
Yeah.
Oh, that stuff's gold.
Yeah, that's
it's,
By the way, I'm frozen, so I'm trying to work through it
at
here.
least it wasn't like a totally embarrassing photo like James has of me.
Oh, I've got not a photo. I got like 30 of them. I gotta make that. Maybe I'll put all that together as a compose
So
them all
Tom-
together for New Year's.
Tom, did you start using Apis at all?
No, I haven't used it at all. So I have been using spirulina in my pollen sub, which I'm actually 100% in love with. It's amazing because they actually the big thing for me was they are actually storing it with the other pollen, right? But I didn't use the Apis Biologics or anything, and mostly because anything I buy, I have to be able to sell. And the good idea fairy keeps on biting me in the ass.
Right.
You know, like oh well, I'll sell this, and then it turns into I'm expecting low workload, low profit. That's acceptable, but it always seems to turn into high workload, low profit.
Right.
So I'm just for a business model, I'm just shedding as much as I possibly can and sticking with what works.
Yeah, a friend of mine, Nancy, she used that spirulina and liked it, but are you still able to get it?
So that's the trick. It's wicked expensive.
Yeah, that's what I understood.
Yeah, it's like $6 a pound if you get it on sale. And then but you're not using 100% spirulina. So there's a USDA researcher from Maryland. I can't remember his name, but I haven't exchanged messages with him. But essentially you do a 25% mix with regular pollen sub, right? 25% spirulina, and then whatever pollen sub you're using. And I did 2 yards, 20 colonies, right? 5 in each yard. Got spirulina mix, and then 5 got regular pollen sub mix. And the running joke really quickly became the ones that got spirulina. The joke was it turns the queens into drone layers because they were pumping out drones like absolutely crazy. Which is a good thing, right? That's a colony like, hey, look at all the resources we have. Spend.
Great. Yep.
And then the big thing was when I was pulling out pollen frames, you could see, right, because it turns the pollen sub into like this green swamp goo, and you could see the green in all of the cells. Not all of the cells, in a lot of the cells, you know what I mean? So, but that take everything I'm saying with an asterisk, right? I'm not, this isn't like real research. It's just farm studies.
Well, that's Charlie was a naysayer. Charlie was a Apis Biologics naysayer at first. And before, I got to preface this. You can go back in the live stream where Charlie says, I was adding all the supplements to my feeds and I really didn't see anything work. But then when Apis came out, he bought some. And Charlie, I'll let you take it from there.
I used it. I put it in my feed for the fall last year, and those bees came out, and I didn't put it in all the sugar water that I put in those hives. And when those bees hit, they caught me off guard.
They came out of Charlie's hive going, Hundere, Yeriba, Yeriba.
That's right. Well, anyway, I'm running 3 mediums here. Usually, everything's upstairs. It was in the 2 top boxes, brood and whatever. And I could take those 2 top boxes off, pull the bottom medium off, and then set everybody down on the bottom board. And this year I found that it was brood on all 3 boxes, bees on all 3 boxes, and more of a bee volcano of, they were jam packed. And this is at the end of March, which is a little earlier than our spring hits. And they were just overflowing. And I'm like, holy smoke, now if I can harness, for this year, I'm going to approach it in a different way about management. As far as single brood, I'm taking off at least 1 medium and then keeping the queen into 2 mediums. And it works great. It doubles my honey production. And I'm going to try to harness all that energy, all those bees that are in there to get through April, May, and June, which is our honey production months here. and try to. I averaged 80 pounds a hive per hive, which is 30 pounds more than the average for the state. I'm gonna try to do at least if I can get 100 pounds per hive, I'm gonna be ecstatic. Or
So
if I get 90, I'll be ecstatic.
you using it in the sugar water, and is there something that goes in
You
the
take
pollen stuff
you
too? I
take
go
and
to the
Yeah.
website.
There's
you
two
take
different ones.
mix. It's all in. I mean, in your situation, you buy the big bag, and if you're mixing up a tote full, which is 275 gallons, you take
Mhm.
the whole bag and dump it in there. Now, for me, I'm mixing 40-gallon batches, and I take a tablespoon for 40 gallons. That's all you need. And in my analogy of it, and I think Brad will kind of back me up on this, it basically takes your sugar water and turns it into nectar. It gives it all the properties, as far as I'm concerned, as nectar. And the bees, instead of just surviving, they're thriving off of this stuff. It's just brood is just, the brood.
Nice.
It's just like Ian says, it's rocket fuel, and they brood up like crazy, and that's what that's what that stuff does. They are just leaps and bounds ahead of her. But you got this. You got to be on your A game, and you got to be you better be there a couple of weeks ahead of time,
Yeah.
or you're gonna or you're gonna have a swarm problem on you real quick.
Yep.
So it's
I have to echo what Charlie just said, because I used it for the first time this last spring, and my hives exploded. And not only that, I believe there is a long-term effect that Apis biologics gives the queen. When they feed the queen, there's something that must turn on the queen to just keep going and going and going. Because my populations in my hives were way past normal this year, and there were only two different things that happened around what I was doing or environmentally, and that was one, I added Apis biologics to feeding, and two, we got tons of rain, and that was it. So you be the judge. I don't know if rain increases queen laying, but I'm going with the other.
yeah. And then like my
No, it
nukes, when
sounds
I
like
have
I
my
should try it.
nukes, yeah, my nuke sales, I'm doing 5/5 in deeps. And a lot of time in past years, it's like I need 3 frames of brood. Well, not this year or this spring. I had like 6 frames of brood, and I could take 3. I said, "Oh, there's 3 frames right out of the one hive." Put it in your nuke box, ready to sell, along with some feed and pollen. It was easy doing because of all the brood that's in there. So yeah, it's you can try it, and
It's awesome.
once you start getting, the people around you start seeing what's going on,
Yeah.
and it's like, I watch a lot of YouTube, I guess they're more backyard or whatever, and they'll say, look at the box of bees, and I see maybe 3 dozen bees crawling across the top frames, and I'm like, there ain't no bees in that box. I I says, when you open mine up, all you see is bees. They're on the frame, and then when you take the box off, they're dripping out from underneath the bottom down on the next box.
Hmm.
I said, that's a box of bees. It's like Ian says, you don't want to gauge them from the bottom, but I like them where you can't see the top bars. It's either 100% covered up because of all the bees, or they're 90% covered up,
Mhm.
along with them dripping out of the bottom all the time. And like Todd said, it seems to be lasting all through the whole year.
Yeah.
The gusto of the queen and the bees themselves are just solid boxes of bees.
Well, it kind of, even if the effects of whatever the Apis biologics wears off, right? You would expect that it would last, because good nurse bees build good bees, and good bees build. So that kind of makes sense.
Well, here's the thing: you would think after the life cycle of that nurse bee gets after you're done feeding Apis and you quit feeding Apis, you would think that effect is going to last maybe another, well, whatever the cycle of the nurse bee is, right? Whether it's a nurse bee for 10 days or whatever, you would think that would be the end of it. But no, it keeps going and going and going. I don't know what it is, but it
Yeah.
just
Well,
does
what I would
biologically something to the queen, I believe, but no one knows for sure.
Okay, well, I don't know. I was just saying, like let's say if you're feeding a supplement that's very, very good for them, when you stop feeding, that's because you no longer need to feed, so you have natural resources, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So I would think that that would just naturally take over.
It,
Yeah.
in my case, Tom, I fed them twice in the spring, Apis with my sugar water. That was it. Two
Gotcha.
doses of that, and it lasted well past August.
And Charlie, you said you fed in the fall.
In the fall. So their winter feed is apis all the way through. Their winter feed in essence is real nectar. Instead of it's like pollen patties. It's a substitute.
Hmm.
Well, this stuff I don't know if I can call it a substitute because it's not substituting. It's taking a substitute and turning it into the real thing.
Hmm.
That's I think the difference in it. Taking sugar water as a substitute of nectar, but it converts it to nectar. So
Go ahead, Ryan.
anyway, I know now Doug's been trying to get on here for I don't know 15 minutes. Doug, what did you want to say? Nothing.
No, no. I'll just go back to wrapping hives. We wrap everything outside. We winter and cold temperature. But the main reason is it controls the wind. You go outside and it's 20 below, no wind, not a bad day. Go outside when it's 20 below with a 20-mile-an-hour wind. Big difference.
So, Doug, are you in Canada as well?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And he's on a
Breaking
delay.
up, I didn't catch that.
Oh, they answered for you.
Yeah, asked if you're in Canada. Yeah.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about the apis that you were talking about. You're using that just to boost these colonies, like coming out of winter and then going into winter, correct? Basically, before the nectar flow and all that.
Yeah, it's supplemental feed when you're doing your supplemental feed, adding it to it then.
Gotcha.
But here, my supplemental feed is darn near all year round, because we have some very defined dearth periods. So I feed it. I probably feed it more than anybody else here, right? Just because of the amount of feed that I put out.
Tracking.
But
Another question, since we're talking about wrapping, cold weather, and all that, I imagine everyone here is probably running apivar strips and oxalic acid treatments. Is that what you guys are doing?
well, that's what I did this past year. And
Yeah.
the Appy tablet is the new thing that I'm using. So
The question is about the oxalic acid. Like you said, right? You asked 100 beekeepers, you get a million different answers. Are you guys doing oxalic acid treatments like all winter long, even when it's cold, right? Because they're all going to be balled up.
I am, I'm in your area. I'm doing it at least once, if not twice a month through the winter.
Through the winter, once, twice a
and
month.
I try to hit a 45 to 48 degree where they're not really flying, but they're loose inside the hive.
Okay. That's what I've read is to.
And then I'm
kind of want
hitting
them
them
loose
with
in there.
about 6 grams.
6 grams, once, twice a month. Okay, got it.
Yep, I do formic in September. Remember we had that hot spot, that week worth of about 99-degree weather this year.
Yeah.
After that, we had 2 weeks worth of 75-degree weather with low humidity, and I hit them with the Formic Pro double strips. And then
Gotcha.
after that, I fed them, and then after that, I started hitting them. I did it two vapes in November. I did one in December, and I'll probably do either one or two in January and February, and then probably be like close to end of February, and then that's it. March, April, May, and June, I don't do anything.
Gotcha. And then the next thing is Do you guys actually do the whole? I've heard different things for this too, right? Because you're always treating for mites. Do you guys still actually bust out the mite checker, right? The shaker and all that stuff just to get a count?
Occasionally.
After you treat, you have to do that, or else you're not going to know whether your treatment worked. Every single study, Randy Oliver, USDA Bee Research Labs, they'll test 40 colonies, and 38 will do one thing, and 2 will do something completely different, right?
I shook every single hive before they went into the barn this year.
Okay. And you guys
Sometimes
using the
2
alcohol or the
Dawn,
what was
Dawn,
that?
Yeah, alcohol or Dawn, either way.
Okay.
Start doing it, 100 plus.
That's in my area.
Right,
That's
that
some of the beekeeper's biggest mistake is they say, oh well, I treated my hives, and you ask them, well, did you do a wash afterwards? And, well, no, I treated them. It's like, did the treatment work? It
Okay.
sure sounds like it didn't.
I gotcha.
And things
So
like
if you
oxalic acid, there's a lot of room for user error in that. Even if you're vaporizing, right? If you get, if you're drilling through that bottom board, if there's one dead bee where that nozzle is coming out, then you get mount oxalic acid right at the end, and you don't get a treatment, right? There's lots of room for user error. So
I gotcha.
you got
So
to
basically, after you treat, you're gonna do your check, and then if that thing comes back high or not where you need it to be, you're basically treating. You're jumping right back on it, treating again.
yeah, not on oxalic acid. We're talking about wintertime for that. So you're obviously not doing it then. But the oxalic acid in the wintertime, that's not to up, in my opinion, that's not something to increase your chance of winter survival. That's something to set yourself up for success the next year, right? The writing's
Okay.
already on your walls for the bees in November, right? They're either dead or not. That treatment's not going to affect it.
My
see.
main
It's set you up
thing
for
of it
success.
is to maintain a low mite level.
Tracking, so they're on target for spring. Once
Yeah, now in the wintertime, I'm not going to do any shakes because I don't open them hives up.
sure.
And then I do have screen bottom boards, and I do put the coroplast up underneath of them. I do close them up all winter. What I do is I use that as a guide where come back in 3 days and put, make sure it's clean before you do the treatment. Put it, and then put it back in, do the treatment, come back in 2 or 3 days, pull that out and take a look at it. You don't have to count every mite. If if there's 20 mites, you're in pretty good shape. I've had one hive last year. It was a nuke, and it looked like somebody took a pepper box and poured the damn mites on there. That's how
Wow.
many mites. That's how many mites was on it. I said, and then the rest of them next door to them were fine. They might have had 20 mites, but that's the one when you went back. You didn't wait 2 weeks or so. I went back within a couple of days and hit them again, on that one hive. And then after 3 treatments or so, then I got them under control. Why they were so high on that one hive, I don't know.
Ryan, were you military?
No, you keep hearing me say tracking. I work over at Fort Detrick.
Okay,
I was
okay.
a prior
That's
Porsche
why
Audi
I asked.
mechanic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Nice.
now I do IT over at Fort Detrick. So
Yeah, over there at the
yeah, it's an Army base, but they got all the branches there.
got all the ethyl methyl bad shit there too.
Yeah, they do have a lot of bad stuff there.
Yeah, I worked down at Edgewood Arsenal, for a few months.
Okay. Yep, I just actually landed another position with Custom Border Patrol. So with
So we got our link up to send Appy tablets to Canada now.
there yeah, there you go.
Just I'll address them to Ryan. He can hand them over the border there.
Forward them all over. Yeah, no problem. Are those not allowed up there?
We don't know. We don't really know, but
Yeah.
And these
But
are called what? Appy tablets?
the Appy tablets, yeah. So I had a happy accident this year. I get a lot of people that send me stuff. Hey, can you check this out, try this out, right? Because of YouTube. And guy sent me a sleeve of Appy tablets, and I had a real bad hive beetle issue. So I was swapping out bottom boards to oil tray bottom boards to catch small hive beetles. And so I had this sleeve of these Appy tablets, and I said, well, you know what? While I'm swapping the bottom boards, I'll go ahead and drop these on the top since I'm already tearing them all apart. And I came back a week later to check the beetle drop in the bottom of in the oil pan, and one of them probably had 1,000 mites just laying in the in the tray there, right? So I'm like, okay, there's something to this. They've got 7 grams of thymol in them, but it's mainly sugar and essential oils and cornstarch and corn. It's all natural products that's pressed into a disc, and it had the happy side effect of killing some mites that were in there, right? So I went ahead and bought a bunch of them and put them on the website, and they do a pretty effective job over time because it's in the colony so long, and it's not really an off-gassing that is, I guess, killing the mites. What he describes, the owner of the company, is that the bees are actually consuming it, and as they consume it, that the mites that are on the bees are ingesting what's in the Appy tablet, and it's killing them. So I've got several colonies that that's been their winter treatment, and they're doing pretty well right now. So I'm going to drop them back on here probably in the next couple weeks to get them ready for the spring and let them go. But I've had some colonies that have had them on there they haven't even consumed the whole tablet, and that's primarily because I'm feeding, right? If I took away the feed, the only sugar source they would have in there is either the honey or the tablet. And because I've been putting feed on them, that they've just slowly been eating away at it. So it's been kind of keeping the mites down over the whole period it's been in there. So I'm excited about them. They're pretty reasonable. You get 10 tablets in a sleeve, and you put 1 tablet per deep box of bees. So for $4, you're treating a colony for, well, it's a supplement. It's not a treatment, but it's a supplement for the lifetime of the tablet in the colony. So he says it should last 3 weeks to a month. I've had some that have been in there for, I don't know, 2 months or so.
Cool.
Or longer. So it's been pretty effective so far. So Brad was getting a chuckle.
Oh no. Well, you pick up on the most subtle thing.
Right.
Just giving you a grin, that's all. You know what? I think that's one of the most exciting things to come down the pipe in my beekeeping career, which is 9 years, but still, I mean, it's super exciting. I really hope it goes somewhere.
Oh, we lost him.
Uh-oh.
He just went to run and buy some Appy tablets.
He is. You betcha. You'll be getting an order through your website right away.
I got one today. I got someone ordered two sleeves, so I guess it's getting that time where things are going to start ramping back up. Yeah, I don't know if there's Tom again. I don't know if I'm going to ABF or not. We'll see. I haven't talked back to Mehmet. Mehmet wanted me to go to ABF, and it's because I work, right? So far this year, I had Tom back. So because I still work, and you know how the U.S. loves giving their employees vacation time, which they don't, right? So I've got a finite amount of vacation, but I have Manitoba in February, right? I've got ABF in January. I've got Nabi in January, and then it's a matter of picking which ones that I can spend the time to go to. And I've already canceled the Nabi tickets because of my mother passing away. So it was 2 days later, Mamet's asking, hey, I've got an extra spot. You can come up to Nobby. But then it's like, but now do I want to spend my vacation in Louisville or in Manitoba or in New Orleans? Or so that's kind of the issue right now. Or do I just want to fire my employer and go all over the place, you know? Yeah, Jim says Manitoba in February. Are you crazy?
Quiet, Jim. Don't tell him.
I have no winter clothes. I've got a hoodie. Is it hoodie weather in Manitoba in February?
It might be. I don't know. It's hoodie weather right now.
Hoodie plus
I'll meet you at the airport with a parka. Because you know I won't be wearing it.
and a sled dog team.
And a sled dog.
I was going to say it's hoodie weather for Brad, but for me and you, Bob, it's like Parka City.
Brad will show up in short pants and a hoodie.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. T-shirt and
Kinda
shorts and all.
The Hive Life last year, I'm down there in Tennessee running around in T-shirts and everything, and everybody else has got toques and mitts and gloves and ear muffs and
I
everything.
had a hoodie on.
You know,
I went to Toronto years ago. I was in Toronto, and I think it was middle of December. And I'm walking down the street. I'm not in shorts, but I'm in a t-shirt. And I'm walking down the street downtown or trucking along, and this guy comes just beetling up right beside me. And he comes right up and he says, "So where are you from?" He says. And I didn't clue in until just then. I looked around and everybody else was wearing like heavy jackets. And I'm running down the street in a t-shirt. He knew I wasn't from there.
yeah, that's how it was 2 weeks ago down in Mississippi. Everybody was asking us where the heck we were from, because same thing down there. They got literally the big parkas with the fur and stuff on it. I'm looking at Alan, and it's like, man, I'd be cooking in that. And it was, you know,
What do they do when it gets cold?
We came home with a suntan, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Phil, don't buy them at Nobby. I sell them for the same price. Buy them from me. I'm supporting Mamet. You support me. That's how this works. I still got 8 cases out there. Actually, 8.5 cases. So I got a half case in here. So
Buy them up, people.
buy them up. That's right. And I would say I'd do free shipping, but
That's the effect of that good idea fairy when you end up with piles of stuff sitting around not selling.
well, in fairness, he delivered me some to take to a conference, and I took him to the conference, and nobody's heard of them, right? So it's like it's a whole learning curve, and it takes a period of time. It's kind of like Hive Alive, right? Hive Alive fondant and Hive Alive liquid. They did a great job on marketing, but whenever you ask anybody, and I challenge you, ask somebody, hey, and Charlie's done it, Charlie's used it, and ask them, say, hey, how's that Hive Alive doing? The only thing they say is, well, my bees look good. Well, what does that mean exactly? Right? I mean, it's speculative, right? I mean, some people open their box of bees, and like Charlie said, there's 12 or 20 walking around on the top frames, and they're like, oh, my bees look great. And then if you went to Ian, he'd be like, those bees look like shit. You know, so it's like it's all speculation on how it looks.
We want to choke them darn bees out.
So
I think that's what I asked Bob earlier when he was trying to, beginning of the year, you know, oh, here, look at that. You know, I was like, what, did a few bees wander into that box? Where's your hive?
yeah, I had a hive beetle hive that bees moved into.
But Tom, it's like you were saying about spirulina, because I was, you know, a friend of mine, Nancy, had that, and she couldn't get it anymore. She was getting from another commercial keeper in Pennsylvania, where he was buying it by the pallet loads. And but you've told me that you had results with it, you know, visual results. And
Yep.
right, you say, and I had visual results with Apis, and in Hive Alive setting their products down, and I used their liquid feed form, and I put it in my, and it was like, okay, I don't, maybe I have to wait. I mean, Hive a lot or Apis. I took me all winter till springtime to figure, to see the results. But I don't. They're always talking about gut health, gut health, gut health, and I'm like, okay, does that equate to more bee population and more honey production or whatever out of our bees? I haven't seen it gut health do all that. I don't have.
It's kind of like if you don't see your bees crapping all over the front of the hive, then I can't tell if their gut health is better than before I used it, right? Now, if they were crapping all over the hive and I started using, they stopped crapping all over the hive, then I can notice that. But I can't notice if I don't have a before thing I'm trying to fix, right?
It's still correlation, though. It doesn't prove causality, right? You need things like microscopes and labs to really.
No, it's a proven fact that Nicolas Cage, when he makes a movie, somebody drowns in a hot tub. That's
well, that is well, it's a correlation for sure, and that's the perfect example that correlation doesn't prove causality. Like, Nicolas Cage, is he responsible for those drownings?
Yeah, I think
he is. I don't know. It hasn't been proven.
And if you don't know what we're talking about, guys, there's a website out there that it takes totally random facts, and then they put them together, and because they have some sort of correlation, they have nothing to do with each other, but you can make an argument that when this happens because of the documentation that they put together, right?
Lockstep. The craziest things track lockstep. It's spurious correlations, I think, is the.
If they used Hive Alive in that hot tub, he wouldn't spoil.
Hive Alive in a hot tub. What's his name? Was still be alive.
So
welcome, Morgan.
Hey, how's everybody doing tonight?
Doing good. Good to
Charlie,
see you, buddy.
When you said you couldn't find spirulina, are you talking about ready mixed patties or just the?
I guess that's what she was getting, the ready mixed patties.
Okay, yeah. So I'm talking about the powder, which will be cheaper, but it's still expensive.
Yeah, it sounds to be.
Yeah, but maybe I'll take that spirulina this year and I'll add some Apis biologics, and if you guys see a big nuclear blast come up, then you'll know that I did it.
Yeah.
Try it out. I can pretty much guarantee you're going to see some serious results.
How much patty
Do
are
it
you making?
separately, though. Do it separately, Tom. You'll see a difference.
Yeah, so I make it in 5-gallon buckets. So like this year, I went through 2 40-pound bags of Ultra B, and then how much spirulina was it? I think 12 or 18 pounds, but whatever, 25%. Well, yeah, 10 pounds per 40-pound bag.
Well,
But I just mix it. I just mix it in a 5-gallon bucket. And the thing is with the spirulina is if you think mixing pollen sub is a slow, gross mess, add some spirulina and it just makes it worse. It's like it feels like you're just like wading through your like this swamp like turd. It's just everything turns green. And I do it right. I do it in my wife's kitchen. She's never.
Oh shit.
Uh-oh. Living on the edge, my friend.
That's the.
I mixed up Apis this spring when I got some off of Bob, and I had sugar water in my feeders, and the bees weren't touching it at all.
I think
so I emptied that out. How'd I do that?
Do what?
Is that better?
Well,
Yeah.
I heard you.
Yeah, you're good. You're sounding good.
Okay. Well, I mixed up some Apis after having just sugar after I got the Apis from Bob. The bees weren't even touching the plain sugar water. I put the Apis into the feeders, and within 15 minutes, it was full of bees eating on it. They knew the difference between sugar water and the sugar water with the Apis real quick.
That's good
And
stuff.
then you kept it in there, right? You just kept using Apis after that?
Yeah, until when I took the feed off of them, but yes. And then the Appy tablets, Bob, I had videos of it when I started it, and Bob can tell you because I shared with him what the mite drop was amazing as far as the amount. I didn't even know it was possible to have that many in there, and it just over a few weeks it's dropped off, and I actually had time this week to check a couple of them real quick of my trays, and there's hardly any at all in the tray dropping in the trays now.
Well, we've been going for 2 hours and almost 17 minutes right now, guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be ending the stream, but tomorrow night we have another live, and I don't know, to be honest with you, if it's on Kodiak Farms Bees or on my channel. I never remember. So what you need to do is, if you want to participate or watch, you need to make sure you're subscribed to both channels. And, you know, Doug's got a YouTube channel. Charlie's got everybody up here has a YouTube channel. Definitely make sure you've subscribed and followed and smash the thumbs up for us, guys. It helps out. And
now, you new guys, just don't check out. Just stay here.
Yeah, just hang. Yeah, don't pop off quite yet. But we're gonna go ahead and end the live portion, guys. We appreciate all of you. Merry Christmas to everyone, and
Merry Christmas.
Thank you for participating in the chat. And hey, go to these websites we share and support them. Support mine specifically and Tom's.
Support Bob.
and we will see you guys again on the next stream. Appreciate you. Good night.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks, guys. Nice talking.
Everybody stay.